we're going to do a little bit of a cup along today. So I've been sent some samples, as I do regularly, by an importer. These are roasted samples and they're a selection of coffees from Ethiopia. And I need to send back some views on the samples that have been sent. And I've got to think to myself, do I wish to purchase any of these? Have I got a space or a gap in my portfolio to accept another Ethiopian coffee? Do these fit the profile of the business? Do they fit the cost base that I wish to be able to sell to the customer base that I have within the business? So there's a lot of questions that I need to answer within these 5 samples from Omwani Coffee Importers that are based in Yorkshire, which is about 30 miles from the roastery. And with a gentleman there, Dave Burton, who used to be a roaster. It's really great because you can talk about roasty things, and that's fantastic when it comes to conversing about the products that you're purchasing, because if the green buyer has some experience in the roasting realm, they kind of understand how the raw product will transfer into a saleable roasted product. So I thought a cup along would be a good little thing for you to watch. So in this video, I am going to go through the standard cupping procedure or protocol for the business. I'm going to annotate some notes. I'm going to discuss a few things, and maybe I'll come up with a coffee that I'm going to purchase and hopefully give you some nuggets of information about raw coffee selection for your roasting business. Now, should I assume that you know what I'm doing here? I've done 670 videos on this platform to include short form stuff. Do you watch the short form things? If you don't, please do, because I do these things every single day in the short form arena and once a week on this long form stuff. Obviously, give me some feedback as to what maybe you want to see from me as a coffee roaster and a business owner. There might be a bunch of questions that you have, not only on this video, but any other subject matter. You put it forward to me in the comments and I'll do my best to answer those questions. So for today's example, I will make 2 assumptions. One, that I've done a video that describes the cupping process and or that you know what this cupping process is. But just as a brief synopsis, this is a cupping and it is a way to be able to assess a coffee because all of the processes inside of this brewing have been standardized. If there are differences, we can only assume that the differences are because of the coffee, not the brewing process. And that's about all I'll say on this matter. Now, what I've done is I've labeled the samples, in this case, A, B, C, D, E. I do not know what's underneath. Well, I sort of do. I've put the washed coffees here and these are all naturals. So I've done a pre-selection. I like to wash coffees first before I do naturals, because naturals tend to be so overtly fruit forward and overtly pungent that it becomes unfair if you've got a washed coffee on the table. So for me, washed coffee first and then into the naturals, especially if you are selecting an African coffee. So what I've done is I took a note of the dry fragrance. I haven't annotated that, but I have taken a note of the aroma, and I would tend to do A for aroma and then a quick scribble on anything that comes to my mind about the particular aroma profile of the coffee that I am assessing. In this case, I try to put just one word. I could look at lots of different other things, but that comes a little later. That's if I've selected this coffee, for example, to purchase, I've landed it inside of the roastery and I've done a trial batch. It's at that point that I try to expand the vocabulary when it comes to dry fragrance and aroma and also any other flavor profiles. This is merely, do I like this more than I like this? And then ratify it against how much the thing costs, can we afford it in the business? Does it fit the profile of the customer base that we may have today or that I'm aspiring to have? Because one of these coffees for me could be incredibly expensive, but could also be a coffee that allows me to get into a new market space or just have some fun with. So next, what I'm going to now do we're 10 minutes into contact time with water, I will then do the cupping and I'll talk through some other stuff. Now I've done my first pass, which for me is 10 to 14 minutes. If I pause 1 second, we are in the middle of summer in the UK. The ambient internal temperature of the roastery is 25 degrees Celsius. I cup inside of this fairly largish space, 250 square meters, and ambient temperature has an impact on the cupping times. So in the summertime, between minute 10 and minute 14 is what I would do my first pass. At that point, I would say that the coffee is hot. When it's hot, your tongue can perceive a different set of things than it would do when the coffee is cool. So first pass, I will go through the coffees, think about them, think about what my customers will be perceiving if they were to be drinking the coffees at home. Most people consume coffee on the slightly too hot side as far as when the coffees are opened up in temperature ways. So it's good to assess at that temperature. On this particular table, I have selected 2 coffees that are standouts. It's a little difficult when you're tasting roasted samples sent to you. Roasted samples are executed at a color range that the green supplier deems fit for that coffee. Sometimes they do a good job, sometimes they do a bad job, and most often it doesn't fit your cupping profile, even if they are working within standard protocols. So you have to somewhat be able to see through other people's roasting and hope that the green coffee punches its way through that roast profile. And in this instance, these 2 coffees here are my standouts. So what I tend now to do is allow another 3, 4, 5 minutes for the temperature to wane before I do a second pass to ratify any of the decisions that I have made on that first hot pass. Interestingly, with the cool pass now complete, I've added another coffee into my hit list of things that I enjoy. So now I've brought this in. The complexity of this coffee has increased as the temperature has decreased, which is quite a nice thing. So what I would now do, apart from clearing down, which I'll do shortly, is I would take a look at the coffees that I enjoy, and I would take this data into my laptop and figure out what the pricings are. I would understand what scores the importer has given to me. I would ratify against whether I feel that those scores are in parity with what I would give them, and most importantly for us here at this company, price. I have a certain comfortable range in which I buy green coffee, knowing the customer base that I have crafted over the past 16, 17 years of this particular business. And I don't want to go above that per se, unless the coffee is a stellar, outstanding coffee, which, to be fair, this is just like Parma Violets. It is so profound, so pronounced. I almost have to buy it if it's still available. But then also that same statement about punching above must not also go below. I have a certain band of coffees that I tend to buy. No coffees will fall below 83 SCA points for this company. I feel fairly strongly that at 83 points and above, you start to get really stellar, delicious coffees that are expressive of origin. And of course, when you get over 87 points, you get into the world's finest coffees available, and some of them are just absolutely stunning, of which all of these I would score well above 86, probably 88 for this one, maybe even a little bit more. Now I'm going to quickly clear this down and wrap this up. So I've got my notes and I've got my sample bags with the references. Now it's time for me to go and sit at my laptop and punch out an email to the importer to open lines of discussion about cost and other sorts of information that I might need. Now, Omwani are really brilliant at being able to offer in detail and in-depth information about these coffees, down to farm level, about the co-ops that they work with, about any of the washing stations, lots and lots of information because they spend time at origin. Now, all of the green suppliers that we use have similar amounts of information, and most will have web portals in which you can access that to better understand the coffee that you're purchasing, allow you to form questions back to the buyers themselves, and of course to assist in creating marketing material for when you purchase the coffee, roast it and send it out to your customer base. Now, was that video useful for you? Have I discussed anything that adds value to your roast facility, or as a better understanding about how a roaster like myself goes about his or her purchasing of coffee to sell to you? Let me know in the comments below if you've got any questions about this process, and maybe if you have any suggestions about things that you want me to convey via these video platforms that I do on a weekly basis. Once again, I hope this was helpful. You have a great day.